Thank you so much, everyone, for hosting us, and in particular NBC and DG Samilo, and for the conveners of the event, SABA and BMA. I'm just going to start and stop by saying I'd like to thank Mr. Benjamin. I'm not going to go to the surname, and that way we will avoid any confusion. So I'd like to just talk a little bit today, but before myself and my colleague continue our presentation, I'd like to just reference a couple of the themes that we've spoken about over the last few days. And for me, the most resonant of these have been trust, authenticity, and partnership. And I think as you view our presentation, and Bevan and I have the opportunity to speak a little bit about what we do and go through some of the clients that we've worked with, as long as, including one of the clients that we are currently onboarding and working with, I hope you can think about it in light of the importance, not only about the collaboration and the working together of media entities themselves, but keeping in mind your audience, whether they are your viewers, whether they are on your social media platforms, whether they are watching your TV channels, whether they're listening to your radio stations. I think the important thing for us, and what we'll be presenting through today, is really talking about how to guide and help build a trust relationship with your audience to ensure that you bring them along and that the trust and the authenticity of your brand is built with them. I also just want to reference something that was said yesterday, and it talks to Tracy's presentation, and it wasn't exactly in the presentation, but afterwards through one of the panel discussions about the community. And Tracy pointed out that the communities that are through the research panels that she runs, those communities stick together. And I think some of what we're going to talk to you today about talks exactly to that. People are in need for communities. They are looking for trust. They are looking for authenticity. And what better place to start through media agencies, big or small, radio stations, big or small, makes no difference. There's a responsibility that all these organizations have within your communities to build that trust and authenticity. So just to move on to introduce myself, my name is Alison Blythe. I'm the General Manager for Immedia Studios. We'll be talking today about a product that we have called Fabrik. With me today is our Director of Product, Bevan Andreas, and we will be toggling the presentation today going through various entities. I would also like to introduce a participant online at the moment, Mr. Ngenda Kamayo, who is joining us from ZNBC. Can I just get confirmation that he is online? Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. I see a thumbs up. Ngenda will have an opportunity to present towards the end of our presentation just with regards to a little bit of work that we are doing, there's Ngenda, that we are doing with the ZNBC at the moment. I'm not going to take too long, but I just wanted to, before I hand over to Bevan, to share with us that Immedia's founding vision, which Immedia started in April 1995 and has traversed across many technological advancements over the last or close to 30 years, starting in the web space, moving into mobile, and currently into this convergence of change management and digital transformation that we work in today. But our founding vision was that digital will transform human communication, eliminate lag, elevate to the real time, and infuse personality. And effectively, that is exactly what we've seen play out. When I joined the organization, our CEO at the time, Anis Hassim, shared his serviette with me at the time of the business being created and the vision, and it is quite remarkable that vision and that strategic intent is being seen played out into the world today. Some of our clients that we currently work with, when we pivoted in 2008 away from web into the mobile application space, we worked with DSTV, Supersport, but predominantly a number of other organizations like the SPA Group as a services organization. In 2016, we decided to move into a software as a service platform environment. And through the support and guidance of Microsoft South Africa, We built a platform born in the cloud, and today this is what we're going to share a little bit about with you. I'd like to just thank our clients sitting in the audience today, Mr. Barad Pri. I gave him a little bit of forewarning that he's going to be popping up on a video that he did for us a few years ago. So thank you so much for your graciousness in this. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Bevan.
Thanks, Annie. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I love this slide. The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. How true it is. Can we just take a moment to remind ourselves of the nostalgia of our youth, in the sense of, I'm sure all of us in the room grew up with these sort of experiences where we would be waiting for 6 p.m. to get our news fix, or 7 p.m. on a Thursday night for our favorite television series or the latest episode. Or if you were like me, I had my tape deck on record ready to wait for the radio station to play my favorite song so I could capture it and create my mixtape. Or, waiting for the Sunday morning newspaper to get our news fix. And just what a different media landscape we're living in today. There's so much good in it, obviously, but there's a lot of downsides, which I just wanted to highlight. And some of this has really been coming through quite strongly in the last day or so. Earlier this year, the World Economic Forum released their Global Risks for 2024 report. And the number one risk is that of misinformation and disinformation. And that's in the short term, this year and next year. That's how they're seeing it. If we just zoom in a little bit to the technological risks specifically, in 6th place is that of the adverse outcomes of AI technologies, which, again, we've already covered some of that at this conference. In 8th place is cyber insecurity. 12th place, a big one, the technological power concentration, particularly in the media and social media landscape, just how much technological power is in the hands of very few. Just think of the likes of the Googles and Facebooks, etc., and how much influence that has on the narratives of media consumption, and censorship and surveillance. Just some quotes. These are not our words. These are straight from this report. As polarization grows, and we've been hearing about that even now in this last session, as polarization grows and technological risks remain unchecked, truth will come under pressure. What is truth? People will be questioning that even more. Perceptions of reality are likely to become more polarized, infiltrating the public discourse on issues ranging from public health to social justice. In response to mis- and disinformation, governments could be increasingly empowered to control information based on what they determine to be true, which is effectively censorship. Just 3 more quotes. Digital technology and fragmented media ecosystems have allowed this disinformation to proliferate. The spread of disinformation has fueled an erosion of trust across societies. And lastly, I think the one that's probably the most pertinent for us in the room, rebuilding trust and preserving a healthy media environment requires a joint effort of governments, media houses, technology firms, and civil society. So there's been these 2 main sort of causes for this breakdown of trust in media. The first is this global shift from traditional linear live broadcast to what we're seeing now, this on-demand, socialized information consumption. And secondly is this rise of disinformation and polarization, which has effectively eroded trust in institutions. But broadcasters, and in particular public broadcasters, are anchored with trust, or anchored by trust. And we need to recognize this. They are trusted by audiences to deliver objective, accurate, and relevant content. They have a unique, inherent brand trust that social media lacks. But trust alone isn't enough without leveraging digital innovation. I like this slide. It's a bit simplistic and obviously has taken some sort of generalization liberties, but it illustrates it quite nicely. Broadcast media, historically, and again in general, has high trust, but typically low engagement. It's broadcast. It's us to you. There's never been too much. It has increased in recent years, but still, in comparison to social media, which is inherently low in trust, but has incredibly high engagement. Our philosophy and our business objective has been to try and capitalize on how do we build a platform that capitalizes on the high trust, but builds and allows the high engagement. So challenges facing traditional broadcasters today. This fragmented media consumption across multiple platforms. There's competition increasingly from global streaming platforms. There's a declining linear broadcast consumption pattern as this shift to OTT and on-demand has risen. And then there's this misinformation and social media causing audience fragmentation and polarization. And how much of an answer to all of this is OTT? We believe we need to look beyond OTT. Why? Because although OTT expands reach, it's still based on the traditional one-way content distribution, largely. Audiences, however, now expect this personalization, they expect the engagement, and they expect real-time interaction, whether we like it or not. So we believe OTT, as it is broadly known, is not enough. We need platforms that actively rebuild and foster trust. So that next wave, in our opinion, is about engagement, not just distribution, as we believe that will define the future of media. So we have this concept called social on community. How do we do this? Well, what is social on community? Just give me a liberty for a minute. It's a decentralized, community-driven model that wraps a platform, a technical platform, around an existing community, rather than the other way around. We're quite familiar with the concept of Facebook pages where communities will flock to a particular Facebook page based on their community interests, etc. Whereas what we're thinking about here is inverting that model entirely and actually wrapping a platform around an existing community, no matter what that community is. This social and community empowers organizations to superserve a specific niche interest or hyperlocal, which doesn't need to be seen purely in the view of geography, but that niche interest community. And why does it matter? Well, because it preserves this trust and intimacy and allows real-time interaction, control, and ownership. Why do we believe trust is a differentiator? Well, because broadcasters have deep reserves of trust capital built over years, if not decades. It's never a commodity. It's essential for building long-term engagement and loyalty. And we believe traditional media must transition from being content distributors to community enablers. I'm just going to hand back to Ali for the next section.
So what does Fabrik do? Fabrik enables broadcasters to create a private, trusted social network for real-time community interaction. We've done this by combining content, conversations, services in a unified platform that allows broadcasters to go social while maintaining control and trust with your audience and your communities. If I could just ask the technical team now to switch across to the video, please.
So Fabrik is a product that solves 6 problems for a radio station. So it solves the live streaming issue, plus of course it's the podcasting aspect of it, along with the in-app messaging. And that's pretty important because it creates some community within the app. Then you've got the data and analytics that come from that. And because of that, you also get digital revenue. Israel Mzansi in KZN as a community radio station only has a local broadcast of about 100 kilometers. But from that, they garner 140,000 people that listen to the station on a cum basis.
We service real-time content, fresh, trustworthy information. That's who we are. KZN's leading non-commercial radio station.
Most commercial radio stations are still very, very much stuck in the past. They're scared to embrace a new technology, and maybe that's part of the problem, is that we've had so many different technologies in the last 20 years. From the website, which all radio stations suddenly had to have and adopt and have a live stream on. Then you've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, the next social media that is now needed to be embraced, understood, rolled out with a strategy. None of the data belongs to you though. When you've got a product like Fabrik and you've got your own app where everything integrates with one another, you've now got your own ecosystem that you're able to look at your audience and monetize that audience and communicate with that audience. They realized that their audience were actually ready for this more than the radio station was ready for it.
Once we got them to adopt and use the app, now we can use the sample size of audience members that we have to draw real-time statistics that we can then use to sell to advertisers. So I can look back and tell you that, look, on my app, I average 30,000 streams a day. I can provide that for you. It's the back end that gives us that power. So having that at our disposal allows us to keep monetizing it. The WhatsApp and the Facebooks and everything, they're all good and dandy. You can get the billion audience, but if you don't have control of that platform, then you can't monetize.
Gagasi FM is a media lifestyle brand that is mostly targeted to the Black urban listeners in KZN.
We realized the need for digital transformation a long time ago. With an audience that we speak to being youth and young adults, digital is a very big part of their experience. How do we take the great engagement and be able to give it to the audience at a time that they want to listen to it?
The app, it's an extension of what we have on air. So it is a place that our listeners can go to in case they've missed something.
We chose Fabrik mainly because it really gave us a whole lot of options. You can refer to it as more of a suite of digital tools rather than just a normal app. The flexibility with which it is able to adapt to the audience experience, that really is what made it stand out.
Besides the fact that it's a place where we can have podcasts, can interact with people, they can interact with the presenters, it's about how we can cull information at the back end to get more info as to who it is exactly is listening to the station.
What we realized about the platform is that it was that missing link. What it provided us is an opportunity to unlock consumer insights in real time and use our multi-channel offering in more innovative ways.
When you have data that you can work on, it kind of shows you where the various tribes are. For example, if there are people who are sports oriented, let's create the platform where they can engage on that level. If there are people who are really into news, how can we customize our programming to make sure that if there's a story that breaks, we're able to cater for it.
We understood our audience much more, deeply, which allows us to be able to then give solutions to our clients that go beyond just your traditional 30-second ad.
It's given us another platform to add on in terms of our revenue generation. So we are not only selling airtime now, we're also selling the app.
Versus traditional digital platforms, which would give you engagement of about 2 to 3%. On the app, we saw engagement of about 8 to 12%.
It gives us solutions for our audience and also solutions for our clients. So it's a win-win.
The SBC is the national broadcaster of the Republic of Seychelles. The corporation has a public service mandate to inform, educate, and entertain the public.
My initial thoughts on the apps, I was like, okay, it's one of these apps, just gonna use it just to stream, listen to radio. But it's not just a streamer, there's more to it. We can actually engage with people. We can use voice notes to send to the studio and play it on air. We can listen to podcasts. We can monetize some of the features as well. There was a lot of avenues, and we started to think about how we can use the apps for the betterment of the radio stations.
In launching the apps, we were never sure of the engagement. We thought that it would be the diaspora, the overseas social work contingent, that will be taking this app because of the data costs that are less in these countries than it is in Seychelles. But the metrics show that only about 10% of our users of the apps were overseas, compared to 90% locally. Radio apps have educated us no end and trained us into how to manage content for an online audience. In terms of the level of intelligence that the apps provide, you know, when these are spoken about in forums or the workshops and the seminar you go to, it's intangible. Only when you get it specific for your station and your demographics do you realize, my goodness, there's a lot of information there. From just a simple metrics of male, female, preference, married or not married, the amount of information that this provides to a broadcaster access is unprecedented. We are very excited by the metrics we're seeing, but certainly as far as, for example, advertising is concerned, or a particular message to a particular group, knowing who are there already, it can be tailored accordingly to them.
Our young generation here, they are all about applications, all about mobile phones, all about devices. For a youth, having the information right there on their phone without having to go to tune in on the radio or having to watch out on TV, you had us coming to you through the app, and it was very effective. So instead of people going to tune into radios and TVs, the app went directly to where they are.
The future is brilliant. We have started a journey ahead of many others. There's nothing like this. This itself is a game changer. It's a transformational enforcer to get to that point where you are able to provide a better service to your audience who are already in the OTT space, who are already watching Netflix, Facebook, and YouTube at your expense as a traditional broadcaster. So for us, the journey continues to remain relevant for our public, for our audience that we serve.
So Fabrik is an end-to-end OTT platform with real-time messaging, live streaming, audio and video, on-demand content, and community management tools. Fabrik's social and community model, which is a real-time engagement, social engagement opportunity in a private, trusted environment with tailored digital spaces for each broadcaster to create an audience intimacy and engagement. The benefits of social and community for broadcasters is around ownership and trust, retaining control over data, content, and community identity, fostering long-term trust and resilience against disinformation. Economic resilience to unlock monetization opportunities through trusted community-driven platforms, and tailored content and storytelling, delivering localized, culturally relevant content while empowering community-led storytelling. And I'd just like to pause here for a bit, and there's been a lot of discussion around AI and those components. The platform itself actually does all storage and the data storage in the cloud. Everything that interacts and works on the platform, from storytelling, voice notes, videos, Doesn't matter whether it's curated content or communication through your audience member to yourselves as the broadcaster or the business, it effectively is recorded, which means you can start pooling your information from an AI point of view to be able to disseminate and create your own AI data engines based on the support of the storage of the information. Real-time engagement builds direct, immediate connections with audience through secure, trust-based communication. Bevan's going to talk us through some of the key elements of the platform.
We're coming into land. It wasn't part of the presentation, but when Alison mentioned that now, I just thought I'd highlight it given the theme of this conference. Because of all the data that the platform collects, I mean, every single text message that has been sent in from audience members to the radio station is all permanently stored in the cloud. And there's some really exciting things that we're able to do with that data. I'm going to show you just one or two slides on some of the data that our customers get, which we've started to run through sort of AI queries. But one of the aspects we started playing with a little while ago was one of the most used features with our customers is the consumer, the listener, sending through voice notes to the studio. And some of our stations receive hundreds of those a day. So there's not only this great preservation of culture in terms of local dialect and things like that. These are voice notes that people are telling stories. They're coming through in audio format. But what we've also started doing is actually running that through speech-to-text translation. So now we don't just have thousands and thousands and thousands of voice notes, but we actually have text alongside those voice notes, which are able to be indexed, and we're able to now search through the archives for specific keywords and bring up voice notes that mention those specific things. So there's some really exciting things that we can do with this data, and we're excited about the future with that. Other ones are things like chatbots for service within the app environment. But anyway, so sort of to summarize a way of viewing what we offer, of course it's the live streaming. That's a key component. Of course it's the on-demand content, both audio and video. The mobile app itself, which is part of the platform, we have it's effectively white labeled, it's customized for each brand, for each entity. The messaging and social engagement, which is a big one, we've covered that. We really think that that's a differentiator and something that is very unique and compelling for the way forward. The data and analytics is very, very powerful, as you would have heard some of our customers talking about, and Baras himself, in terms of those the stats that come out of the platform. And then, of course, the digital revenue. But a lot of what we're saying is not just made up. It really is backed up by data. At our level, from across our entire platform, all of our customers, we see some things coming out, which I just wanted to mention, three of which. So we've across our customer base, we've had millions of app downloads. And what we see across the board, of course, it does vary from entity to entity in terms of how they execute, their personality, etc. But for every single app that is downloaded, on average, we're getting 60% of those people who download the app go on to register, which is really unparalleled. And that is, again, because of the trust. The audience is trusting the station, the presenter. They're doing what they're being asked, and they're going to establish identity with that brand. And with that registration comes so much more data. So we think that's a really great win. So 60% of those downloads go on to register. The responsiveness, you saw that from Gagazi FM mentioned that, just how responsive that audience is. And engagement in terms of the app-based inventory, the advertising inventory, whether those are polls or surveys or interactive advertising inventory, we're seeing 10 times engagement, what you would typically get on, like, I think the sort of average on X in terms of advertising engagement is about 1.5%, if that engagement. We're seeing 15 to 20% engagement on the advertising inventory in the environment, which is, as I say, 10 times. And then there's the customer audience data. So each customer themselves has access to this registered pool of audience. When they register with the brand, they fill in a number of questions, things like their date of birth. From that, we can establish an age curve. So this is a screenshot I took from the system. This is based on 122,000 people who registered and provided their date of birth. So it's a significant sample set. I think it's just over 7,000 people said that they are 30 years of age. Things like employment status. These are questions that people are asked when they register, and of course this can be customized. But these people are providing this information when they register. Streaming stats and other things like gender, there's a number of sort of standard fields, but this audience has been a real eye-opener for our customers because no longer do they have to trust on third-party diaries and research companies. They're getting this information directly from their listener or their audience member. Right, lastly, Ellie.
Thank you. Right, we're going to close it off now and we're going to engage with Ngenda. We are currently working with the ZNBC to digitize their radio, 3 radio channels and to bring that online from a digitization point of view. And before we just move into there, I think something that's very important to share is as a business, as we engage with our clients, we look to support and help from the introduction of the platform itself to engage with the fragmented audiences. We help with the release, the onboarding, and the components of that. It is very, very important to understand we do not own the platform. We own the platform, the technology. We do not own the content. We do not own your environment. All of this is owned by yourselves, including your data. In terms of our timeline to get applications and clients onboarded, we probably sit between around about a 2 to 3 month environment to get the onboardings. And then as a client, you've got to look at to build and deepen and personalize your engagement using data and real-time feedback loops. And then look at your longer-term strategy in terms of the scale to a regional and a national digital community-driven ecosystem. For example, in the SBC space, we've included audio on demand behind subscription walls so that the diaspora can engage with local community environments and music. With each client, we look to grow and enhance your engagement through that authenticity and through that trust. Before I move through to Ngenda, I just want to make one comment, and Ngenda is going to talk through the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation project, which is about to release into production on the 17th of October. We do get a lot of questions around, will people engage or will they register? What is very important to note is you do not have to, in order to get to your live stream, as an example, from a radio station, or even in some instances the live video or the broadcasts in terms of TV streams, the client's choice is to what they put behind the registration wall. So it is very important to understand that people are choosing to register to access the messaging tab. We are not forcing them to do that. They're dependent on clients' preference as to what they would like behind subscription. Our messaging tab is the only item that is by default behind registration. So the audience member can actually connect and communicate with all the rest of the content from the clients. But they choose to engage and register. They choose to have that community association and to feel a part of a belonging, to build the trust. And I think that is a very, very important point, and I think it talks back to what Tracy said yesterday. People want to be part of communities. They want to trust, they want to be engaged with. So I'm going to hand over to Ngenda now.
Hello, good afternoon. Good to be with you all, albeit online. Would have loved to be in Swakopmund today. But we can still contribute thanks to technology. So, as mentioned, my name is Ngenda Kamayoyo. I'm the Director Programs at the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation. And we have been working with Immedia over the last couple of months to try and onboard the Fabrik platform for our 3 radio channels. So the question is, why are we doing this? What is it that we're trying to achieve? Our objective is very simple, similar to most other broadcasters, most other players within this space. We're trying to tap into this digital audience. We are looking for a means of providing our content to our audiences online. Because we realize that these are the times we are currently in, and things are changing very rapidly, influenced by the internet. So a lot of our audiences are online, and we need to get our content to them. The old ways of doing things are rapidly changing. So it's not just about getting the content to them, but it's also about being able to give them the content when they want it. Because we realize that people's schedules are different, and linear is no longer the answer. There's a lot of great engagement that goes on radio, and sometimes people are not able to listen at a particular time that you're broadcasting. So we wanted a solution that would be able to preserve that engagement, preserve that content, so that our audiences can still be able to tap into it at a later time. And why did we choose to work with Immedia? Why the Fabrik platform? So there are a number of reasons that that persuaded us to choose Fabrik. And the first is that, as you have heard from the presentation that Alison and Bevan have made, it does provide an owned platform, which is really, a micro social network. So you can think about it as a small scale Facebook or any other social media platform that you can think about. But this is within your own space. This provides you an opportunity to create your own community around your own content. And this, as has been explained, does generate a very high level of trust between yourself as a broadcaster, as well as the audiences that choose to engage with you. So you go beyond just the aspect of distribution. You go beyond just sending, information in a one-way, sort of loop. But what you then get is an environment where there's engagement and your audiences actively participate. The second reason is the detailed insights, that we are able to get from being on the Fabrik platform. I understand there's so many other platforms that are able to give you detailed information, but what makes the Fabrik platform unique is the ability to tailor the kind of data that you want. So you choose the kind of information that you want your users to provide to you. And the ability to tailor that was a very great influencing factor. But aside from that, the platform itself offers us a lot of flexibility in terms of what we want to do with it. I mentioned that for us as ZNBC, we have 3 radio channels, and one of the biggest debates that we still are actually having right now is, do we develop one app to house all the 3 radio channels, or do we develop 3 separate apps for each of the radio channels? Of course, that is the discussion that is ongoing, but what comforts us is that with the Fabrik platform, either way, we are able to get the solution that works for us as a broadcaster. So once this debate is settled, currently we have chosen to deploy 3 different apps for each of the radio stations. But should we choose to make a different decision, we are able to then consolidate all the 3 channels onto one app, and that flexibility is very appealing to us. Has it been a straight line? No. There are definitely a number of lessons that we have learned along the way, lessons that I think other broadcasters would derive value from. And the first is that even as we, walk along this digital journey, we have to realize that tools such as the Fabrik platform or any other tool that a broadcaster may choose to adopt are just tools. At the end of the day, if you really want to derive real success, that will depend on the people. And so as we continue walking this journey, we realize that we have to empower our people with the right mindset, with the right training, with the right skills, and basically overall the ability to be able to effectively utilize the tool. Because no matter how great the tool is, if the person who is supposed to utilize it does not have the knowledge, then you cannot expect to be met with success. And in talking about people, we're talking about, the entire spectrum, both internal and external. Internally, we're talking about the producers, the people who are generating this content, acquiring this content, and making this content available to our audiences. So they need to be empowered with the right mindset for them to be able to understand exactly what their contribution means to the success of a project such as this one. It also refers to internal stakeholders such as our marketing and sales team, because the way they have traditionally approached the market, the way they have traditionally, sold our value proposition will obviously change with the technology. So they need to be able to also understand the value that, this product presents. But also externally, we have the audiences themselves. It is very critical that the audience understands what it is we're trying to understand.
Ngenda, we seem to have lost you a little bit there. I think we can cut the feed. I think there was just one final item that we were going to talk through, and that was around that no one has all the answers, but those who are willing to pick the lessons despite the challenges are likely to blaze the trail eventually. And that was something that had come from Ngenda. If Ngenda can still hear me, I'd like to say thank you very much. And to the rest of the forum, thank you for indulging us and listening to what we have to say. Please, we are here until sort of around about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. If anybody would like to engage with us a little bit more and hear more about our platform or the consulting work that we do, we would love to have a conversation with you. Thank you.
A round of applause, please. OTT, Amazon, Netflix. But then you localize it and then it creates the impression it's not working. What's the magic with you? One sentence.
Trust. The fact that that audience is now on a platform where they chose to be on and they chose to establish an identity, I think is a huge difference. They know they can talk about, with like-minded people, they can talk about what's happening on air in a way that they can't do on Facebook, on Twitter. They can, but it's far more, and this is, again, what Tracy was saying yesterday, is once they start to chat in their group about the breakfast show, for argument's sake, they start to, make friends and establish a little mini community around that.
And then the next one, in terms of the data that gets collected, who curates that? Is it yourselves or would it be the entity itself?
So it's automatically, in terms of curated, the data is, so our platform is designed as a multi-tenanted system. Think of it almost like a Microsoft Office 365. So, it's a shared back-end architecture which keeps our costs down, but the data belongs within each tenant's data set themselves. So that the data is never blurred or with other customers. But that data is automatically collected, and we've built back-end reporting tools that literally just query that data. But all of it is able to be exported. The customer can click export and do whatever they want with that data set themselves. We don't curate it at all. We just build the tools to collect. Think of it like a sponge for data.
Now, I'm just assuming if I'm the entity, the broadcaster, at which point do I see positivity in terms of monetization?
It's a great question, and it comes up a lot. there's opportunities at the outset, in terms of partnership with the sponsor. Maybe, some customers want to actually have a sponsor come on board from day one. Others like to take the approach of building that audience first, before they realize or reach a point of critical mass. But there really is no specific point. We just really try to help our customers see it through phases of, the commercialization will come. First, let's build the audience. So we have a model which is about grow, engage, and monetize. So we help our customers work through each of those three. Not that they're in series, they can kind of be looked at the same time, but there are three individual efforts that need to be put in about growing an audience, engaging an audience, keeping that audience coming. There's no point having big download numbers if a year later no one's coming back into your app, because those are just hollow numbers. The actual active audience is what counts. So keeping that audience engaged, then you can monetize.
Now broadcasters are very famous for onboarding new systems. But at the point of exit, then it becomes a problem. And here I'm referencing particularly the aspect of, and I'm not saying that it will be the case. You said that the platform remains yours. If I would be with you and I no longer want to be with you, how is that marriage? Will it hurt my business, or how will it work? I'm
talking
compatibility now with any other thing.
Another great question, and it's one that comes up all the time. So the fact that we built it as a software as a service allows a customer to get up and running very quickly. So we're not rebuilding an app from the ground. We've done that for years, as Alison covered. Costly, time-consuming. So our customers can get in at the 10th level, so they can get going quickly. But the data is entirely our customers. So if 5 years later you wanted to move on, that data would be entirely yours. That entire audio archive, all the podcasts, all that audience registration, we have tools for you to export that from the platform, and then we'd be able to transfer the app into your... If you were going forward with no app, then obviously the app would be pulled from the store. But if you're migrating to another app, we would transfer so that all of those downloads, people will then get the new update from another provider.
Thank you
so
very much.
It is a transition sort of
thank you.
ability.
I will allow 3 people to ask or comment on what they heard. Going once. There's one hand going twice, the second person. Going, then we have the 3. That they not.
Good morning, afternoon. I'm Noto from Centec. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa. I think, Bevan, the one point that you made, and which I agree completely with, is the grow, engage, and monetize. There's a particular time in which you have to focus on either of these, and you keep stacking them, right? So what I'm wondering is, in your experience, how long does it take typically to move through these stages? And I mean, I get it'll be different, but typically,
Great question. So it's hard to put time on that. So each customer really is how they launch, how they execute can be quite different. Obviously, at first, we encourage our customers actually not to think of them sequentially, but to think of them all the time. But obviously, in the beginning, is to really focus more on the grow. So, how do you launch? How do you get people to onboard and acquire audience? But you can't do that without then, from day one, keeping them engaged. So it's a continuous sort of loop that we help our customer, and just to work through specific initiatives that help achieve all 3 of those. But typically, I would say from 6 to 12 months, really, do they start to get to a really, on average, some sooner, some longer, where they get to a point where they've actually got a material audience there that they can monetize. Again, it's an average, and it varies from customer to customer, but what we see is about 10% of a CUME RAMS sort of number, whatever that diary. So if a radio station say, according to the diaries, we have 1 million listeners, what often happens is after about a year, on average, again, some quicker, some later, they will probably get about 10% of that in terms of download and registered audience. Is kind of an average number, if that helps.
Then we had the head of Intelsat. The batteries on lunch.
Yeah, thanks. I think we always learn, and I'm also learning in this presentation all across the OTT and developments around this. My question was to ma'am, is that you talked about some data, and that data belongs to the users. Can you elaborate more on that? And I'll tell you why I asked this, because we also, run a lot of audience measurement analysis. And there's so many ways that everybody does it. I really learned from even Tracy Hammond's presentation. I actually want to talk to you about that and see how you can bring you into our systems. Can you just share more around the data analytics? Who owns that, please?
So the applications are, the store accounts are set up in the client's name. So effectively ownership of content and everything rolling out from the content, which would include the audience numbers that are coming on board when they are downloading and starting to integrate with the application, is owned by the client. And that's built around largely the legislative requirements that are coming out of not only POPI, to the GDPR, out of California, and we have to be compliant in terms of the collection of information against research practices, as well as first-party opt-in around the globe. In most instances, our clients select to release their applications outside of their country of origin. So, and particularly in the radio space, for news broadcasters, sometimes they chose to just keep it in South Africa, as an example. But especially for radio stations, they do have a diaspora that sits outside of their country of origin, and they want to access those clients, and the audience want to have some sort of community foundation back with their home environment. But effectively, we comply with the legislative requirements, both set out within the country of origin where the application is being launched from, as well as the stores. The stores themselves are pretty adept at ensuring that those things are being managed now. They've taken some time. Apple was probably, iOS was probably a little bit ahead, but Google and Huawei are now catching up in terms of all of that. So in terms of once the user has opted in, they have complied and responded to all the terms and conditions that are set out on the application, both the community standards as well as the terms and conditions and the privacy policy, which is built up together with the company that launches the application themselves. And effectively from there, we roll out and support the data. The applications have a number of built-in systems, so you can do surveys, you can do you can run competitions, and all of that information is gathered and combined and given back as long as the person has opted in. We do use more traditional services as well in the application, as long as it does not go outside of whatever the reference is in terms of the legislative requirements that we need to abide by, and that can be targeting to those who have downloaded but they're not necessarily registered, or and we would use the traditional tools that are available through standard means to access that, but it's all integrated and built into the application.
Just very quickly to reiterate, we are the platform provider. We do not own the data. That data is entirely the customer's data. As I said, when they leave, they can take that data. At any point in time, we might work with them to help understand the data through our customer engagements, because we do this all the time. We see patterns and stuff that help them understand and get insights from the data, but we do not own the data. And that's one of the key things I think that's come across in terms of our customers, why they want to go with us, because this platform is a sponge for data, helps them understand their audience better, but it's not ours.
Maybe I should latch on to the same. If I would be a customer, am I aware that the data belongs to
a customer, or you're an end user? You're an
end user.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
do I know who the data belongs to?
That is all in, again, our customer, as Alison said, the platform provides when someone registers, they accept terms and conditions.
No, I understand that.
Yes.
But when I accept, do I know who I'm dealing with?
Yes.
Between yourselves and the...
We're almost not even in the picture.
Non-existent. Okay, okay.
The customer is it's in their name and their developer account.
Okay, does it clear that? Mr. Berat?
I just wanted to thank you. I just wanted to provide context. It was at my first SABA in 2017 that I learned of Immedia. So it is through this forum that I was able to see and hear what they had to offer. And it allowed that kind of engagement with Immedia. So when I heard what Anis at the time, who had come to SABA, that was in terms of what the app can offer, and mainly and precisely because of the engagement capability, within a few months we contacted you. So it was October. And early 2018, we launched the apps, SBC Radio app and Paradise FM app. And I haven't regretted it since. This is not a plug for you. When we continue to look at all the radio apps out there, what Fabrik offers in terms of engagement with our audience is second to none. Now, we are on other platforms. We are on Facebook. There are 70,000 followers on Facebook for the Seychelles Broadcasting Corporation, and that's for a population of 100,000. The engagement on what we put on Facebook clearly shows that people want to have a say. They want to get in on the conversation, say their piece through their freedom of expression. Now imagine you have, through Fabrik, a much more curated community where people are able to engage with each other accordingly, but knowing they are in a safer space, that it is managed better in terms of the interactions. And that is what we are seeing and we want to continue to see, especially on the programs that we are streaming live, or when we create a channel that say, okay, it's elections, it's ongoing, what do you want to say, or it's the games, or whatever the topic. So I just wanted to say, and we all know that our audiences are no longer just wants to listen to us, they just want to give us feedback, they want to participate. And that meet and you receive, but we transmit and they transmit back to us. And that is a brilliant way to keep your audience and keep them engaged. Thank you.
Mr. Dupree is actually mentioning a very profound incident within SABA, in that we always say when technical partners are coming, they need to find value in them attending SABA PMA conferences. So I was very happy to hear that the collaboration that you are having now came as a result of you having met here. And with this, I'm actually sending out a clarion call to all of us as broadcasters to be very much aware that when our technical partners and all others are coming, there has to be a deliberate position of wanting to foster relations. Because if they do not come here, then the conference or the conventions will not exist. And I think for that, in closing, let's applaud the team. You've done stunning.